So before we go any further, let's talk a moment to talk about the page elements that we found here and how we interact with page elements in general. You'll notice that we had used this iWeb element and that we didn't have a search box or an input element. Instead, we just had this one interface, iWeb element. And you'll find that all of the elements that exist on a page will basically be accessed through this iWeb element. And that may seem a little bit strange at first. You may feel like you need to get an HTML table or a button. But iWeb element is designed in such a way that it will let you call the methods that you should be able to call on those particular elements. So you can do pretty much everything you need to with iWeb element. Now, some of these methods are not going to work on every single type of element you get back. So you have to know a little bit about the element yourself rather than using the API to discover what you can do with an element, which is a little bit different than some APIs that you might be used to. So let's take a look at what iWeb element can do for us. So you can see here that the first thing I have is the methods that exist in iWeb element. Let's go over these methods real quick. We have a clear, which will clear something out. For example, when we use an input or text field, we can clear that out. If you call clear on something like a link, it's not going to do anything. So you just have to be aware of the context in which you're calling these methods. Click is obviously going to work for something like a button, anything that can be clicked on, and it's going to fire that JavaScript event. So you can even use it on things that are non-buttons and non-links. You can call find element, so you can nest this together. So let's say that you find one element, let's say a table, and then you want to find a row in that table. Well, you can get the table first and then call find element or find elements. You can get an attribute, a particular attribute that exists on that element. You can get a CSS value, any of the CSS values that are defined for that element. You can send keys like we saw, which will basically send those keys to that element. In the case of an input, it put that text into that input field. And then you can submit it, and some elements allow you to submit, for example, a form. Now we have some properties as well. You can check to see if an element is displayed, if it's enabled, where it is, if it's been selected, the size, the actual tag name, so you can figure out what are you looking at. Did you actually get an anchor? Did you actually get a table? And you can grab the text of an element. And again, some of these properties aren't going to apply to every single element, or they're not going to make as much sense, and especially for the methods. But this is basically all that you need. Using all of these things, you can pretty much do anything you need to do on any page to navigate or to manipulate that page for creating a test.